Can you believe October is already over? Where does the time go? I don't know about you, but it's been a busy month with lots of stuff going on. But I'm happy to be here on this last day of October doing our October 2022 Q&A video. Lots of really good questions this month. A lot of them I had some older videos that addressed, so if you don't see your question answered here, I sent you a message on the Patreon with links to either videos or blog posts or just personal responses. So I kind of hand selected, 4 questions this month, because it feels like when we get more than that, it gets a little wild. But I want folks to know, especially folks on Patreon, that I do answer every single question that comes in. It may not be in these videos, but you will get an answer if you ask. That's part of our agreement, part of our sacred reciprocity. So, without further ado, let's get into it. This is a Sharon question, and Sharon brings up something that is really, really cool. I talk about this a lot with my advanced students, but there's no reason we can't rap about it a little bit here, and that is a lot of people who do plant spirit work talk about this experience. Well, okay, they talk about the ability to invoke or evoke or channel a plant spirit, even if that plant isn't present, even in medicinal form, okay? So you're sitting here, you have no medicine made from that plant, the plant's not growing near you, you don't have any of that the dried herb of that, nothing, right? But you have the ability to still call in that plant. Now, if you did the Plant Spirit Journey course, we talk about this. Through the process of invocation and evocation, it's very powerful. I want to give you my take on this process. First of all, absolutely, this is a thing, and it's a very powerful part of the work. For me, it requires initiation though, okay? So the idea is, and this is why the plant spirit journeys are so important. The way that I teach them, the 29-day lunar cycle, or however you do it in whatever tradition you practice, they're super important, because one of the subtle things that's happening is that plant spirit is making a home in your body. They are lending their virtues to your body, which your body then uses to create new tissues, new you, okay? So once you have sat intentionally with a plant for some time, and I say intentionally because I do think it's important. I have heard people say, oh, if you take 1 dropper full of dandelion, you're connected forever. And that may be the case, but I don't know that for me, the ritual of reciprocity is there enough to make that link as strong as I want to make it, right? So when you've done the journey, that plant is now in your bones, they're in your tissues. And it means that because you have once been in relationship, you will always be in relationship. And this opens up a whole can of worms that we can't get into today. Actually, starting in November, our new course on Patreon is about herbal cosmology. And we will be talking a lot about this, which is that everything is connected, that we are all part of, and that when a relationship between 2 persons is created and then nourished, the link between them gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And I think that with disuse, it could atrophy, but it's never really gone. And this is really where our work with spirits, with ancestors, with deities comes in, because the more work we put into it, the thicker that cable gets, the thicker that direct cable, direct line to that spirit becomes. And so when we do a 29-day sit with an herb, maybe several times over our lifetime, that cord connecting us is strong. And it means that even when we don't have access to that plant, we can sit and quiet ourselves and call them up, right? Invoke them, call out to them, call them by their names, call them by their epithets, their by names, their virtues, bring up things they have done for us in the past as a reminder for our relationship, and ask them for what we need. I personally have been in situations where I did not have access to the herb or herbs that I really, really wanted to work with. Sometimes, a couple times in emergency situations, a couple times, just sometimes you're sick, you get the flu or something, and even the idea of getting up off the couch and going into the kitchen feels insurmountable. So you meditate and you invoke the spirit that you've already got a connection with and ask them to come in and bring their medicine, bring their magic, and let it flow through you. A deeper aspect of this, which Sharon also brought up in her question, is how this connection can be used in service of other people, that we can literally channel the spirit of the plant into another person. And for me, in my experience, and I do love this aspect of the work, it's that we are actually channeling the virtues of the plant spirit, their medicine, their magic, their areas of influence, the branch on the world tree that they have an affinity for. We're really directing that into another person. And that could be through the way that we make medicine for them. It could be through a hands-on energetic healing. It could be through a distance healing. It could be with the inner vision. There are an infinite number of possibilities, and this question has inspired me to try to figure out if I can do a course on this for Patreon. So I'm thinking about it, and it may be something that you see soon. So Sharon, as always, thank you for the incredible question. Hopefully that's helpful. If you have any follow-up questions or whatever, send me a note. Rowan, great question. I would like to get an overview of what your practices are daily, weekly, monthly, and seasonally. So this is a great question, and it should bring up some fun stuff. I'm going to try to make it brief though, because it can get a little complicated, and I don't want to deter anybody from the work, because what I do, the level that I maintain, is 25 years deep, and this is I'm fortunate enough that this is kind of what I do for work too. So I don't have a lot of, I should say I have a lot of luxury of space and free time and support around this work that lots of folks don't have. So my standard of work is a little higher and a little more complex to me. Maybe there's people that are like, think I'm not doing anything, which is okay too. So starting in order daily, my daily practice is to greet the dawn. Not so much the sun. I don't have a relationship with her as much as I have a relationship with Hausos, the goddess of the dawn. So I do like, as much as possible, maybe not to be outside, but to be awake and able to receive that flood of auspiciousness, of light, the opening of the gates of the new day, and all of the power that she brings into the world with her blessings and what she does. So that's a small thing. I have some brioche, some verse that I say, sometimes spontaneously, sometimes if I'm tired or not feeling inspired, I recite something, established. So that's one thing I do every day. Another thing that I do every day is a very short ritual of offering. And this is me sitting with, usually lately, because my practice is ever evolving, lately my daily practice has not been focused on any of my allies in particular. I'm really in this space right now where I sit and invoke my ancestors all. I invoke the spirits of nature, the she, however you want to define that group of people, and the shining ones, the gods. And I praise them and I thank them for things that are happening in my life, and I make small offerings to each one. Sometimes it's a pinch of handmade incense for each group on hot coals. Sometimes it's a pouring of libation. Sometimes it's a breaking of bread. It kind of depends. Friday continues to be the day that my ritual week pivots around. So Fridays I will do extra stuff, but it's really just sitting and, you know, making sure that I'm participating in that cycle of sacred reciprocity. And, you know, I don't overthink it a ton. I do have a ritual format that I follow, but I allow myself a lot of room to kind of wander through that. You know, some days I'm feeling more poetic and more wordy. Some days I'm more quiet and contemplative. Some days I will pluck a hymn from the Orphic hymns, as I did this morning, actually, the Hymn to the Dawn. Some days I will read something from, you know, something that I've written in the past, which is always great too. So just sitting and acknowledging those three kin. Now, I should say as a side note for people where that idea of things is new to them, that idea of three kindred is not hard and fast. It's very fuzzy, it's very staticky, and it's very permeable, right? Like where the ancestors, the spirits of nature, and the deities overlap, it's not three clean categories. It's a convenience to us to have those categories, but there are certainly ancestors who become nature spirits that can be considered local deities or gods, gods that are deified, war heroes or ancestor. Like, it's very squishy. But those three categories are quite traditional in Indo-European paganism, and they allow the human brain to wrap around all of this. So just real simple, a little pinch of incense, a little offering to each of those kindred, asking for a blessing in return, and sometimes drawing an omen or asking for an omen in vision, and going on about my day. And let's see, weekly, as I kind of mentioned, on Fridays I do a little bit more. One of my patrons, Priya, Friday is her day, and so I tend to make bigger gestures of offerings, bread, honey, mead, special incense that I make, chocolate, you know, whatever I'm feeling, fresh flowers on my shrine, cleaning my shrine. That's kind of like Friday, but it's the same idea that I'm just showing up to ensure that I am participating in sacred reciprocity, ensure that I'm giving my gift, as small as it may be, in response to the many gifts that the kindred all give, and specifically that any spirits who help me give me, right? And then seasonally, I do follow, this might be surprising to some people, I do follow the eightfold neo-pagan Wheel of the Year. Pretty spot on. I know that I write a lot of alternative ways to practice that, and alternative ways to walk it for people who want to do maybe a plant-based only. They don't want to be involved in paganism or neo-paganism or reconstructionism or whatever. So I try to make sure there's room at that table for everybody. But personally, I do follow the eightfold neo-pagan wheel. While it is not a traditional Wheel of the Year, and there is no Indo-European culture in which we see them celebrating all eight, if we look at the Indo-European world as a whole, we see reflexes and patterns of those eight festivals over and over again. And so we kind of bring them all together and create this wheel that's very symmetrical, and it has a beautiful rhythm. And for us modern folk, I think it makes a ton of sense. Obviously, it's stuck. Animism, paganism should be evolutionary. It should be syncretic, respectfully syncretic. And so the fact that it sticks and it works and we continue to do it says something to me. So tomorrow I will be celebrating November Eve, Samhain, and on November 1st, celebrating an oath renewal, really, but also doing an oath in a more formal way, and which is redone every year on November 1st as a symbolic new year, beginning the new day with the setting sun rather than the rising sun. So yeah, I really love that. And then of course on the agricultural, the plant sorcery end of things, you know, I'm really mindful of what the plants in my garden are doing, celebrating them and honoring them and working with them as they are, with what their rhythm is, trying to meet them where they're at and be respectful that way. So I'm kind of working a local agrarian wheel, just in my personal work, and then that bigger eightfold wheel of the year as my ritual cycle through which the mysteries I can participate. So hopefully that answers some questions for you. Thanks for a great question, Rowan. Who's next? Pip asking, how do you incorporate candles in your herbal practice and use herbs in your candle magic? Great question. I love candles. I love candle magic. I joked the entire time through Game of Thrones that my life goal is to have the candle budget they had for that particular show. I just want it, just like candles everywhere all the time, right? I work with pure beeswax candles, and I work with candles in a few ways. Ritually, candles for me, because I work indoors a lot for lack of privacy, are the way that I kindle a sacred fire to which I can call my allies to join me and sit around a fire of camaraderie and kinship and work the mysteries of the fire that way. I work with fire as a point of transmutation through which I can, in a very classical Indo-European way, I can make offerings through the fire, which are then translated into a substance that is more readily accessible to the gods and many of the spirits that I work with. And I also work with candles as an offering. It's very common for me to take small beeswax votives, kind of like birthday candle size dipped beeswax candles, and roll them in essential oils or dried herbs or resins or gold flake sometimes, and burn them as an offering to a particular deity that I'm working with, or a plant spirit sometimes, or my ancestors, especially around this time of year. And then the fourth is that I, of course, work with candles for plant magic, for doing magic and ritual magic. To me, the symbolism is there. Fire is a light bringer. It warms and enlivens. It is a transformative element that what is put into the fire, something different comes out. And when we are doing acts of magic, generally, we are looking for change, right? So to kindle a fire in the form of a candle, and it is in and of itself an act of ritual magic. But then when we bring in herbs and either roll the candle in herbs or sprinkle herbs onto the candle flame so that they burn, or even draw patterns around the base of the candle in herbs, or burn the candle at the base of a growing plant, we are invoking the plant spirit to join us at that sacred fire, and we are petitioning them to help us. We are burning them to release their virtues into our world after holding those dried herbs and praying to the plant spirit and charging it with our will and our intent, which is our magic, right? We are then petitioning the plant spirit to, bring mingle their magic with ours, and to toss that herb then onto a flame, or to let the candle burn down, or to see the candle flame, dancing off of those herbs, is an act of powerful magic with all the ceremonial trappings that we love to see in a ritual that make us feel all the feelings, right? So I know that's very simplified, but 4 ways that I work with candles. I will do a plug here. I'm not affiliated with this company at all, but I've been working with their candles for over probably close to a decade now, and it's pretty much it for me, and that is Big Dipper beeswax. They make birthday candle size beeswax. They make kind of a chime spell candle. They make a celebration size. They make sizes of candles that make a lot of sense for what I do. I think it's like a 10-minute burn time. There's a 40-minute burn time. There's a 4-hour burn time. And then you can get into these really beefy, and they are just the sweetest smelling, warm light as an offering. They're amazing. So if you were looking for a good source, a good ethical source of beeswax candles, no soy, no lead, no nothing, no fake fragrances. They do have some fragranced candles, which I've burned before and I really enjoyed, and I'm really picky about that. Big Dipper beeswax. Can't recommend them enough. And also from Pip, Favorite mushrooms within your herbal practice? Oh boy. I love the mushrooms so much. It's hard for me to pick one in some ways, but it's easy for me to pick one in another way. I will tell you the mushroom that I work with every single day, and the mushroom that if I could somehow put this mushroom in the water and just feed this mushroom to everybody, it's the one I would choose, and that is Ganoderma lucidum reishi. Reishi mushroom to me is the reishi of our times. This is the mushroom that I see the most people have profound personal experiences with, deep healing, a cultivation of resilience and strength. In traditional Chinese medicine, reishi is considered to be one of, if not the ultimate Shen tonic substance. Not an herb, so we can't say herb, we say substance. Shen being the power of the spirit, or the house of the spirit, the deepest part of the self, right? And so the implication here is that reishi is able to touch and bring medicine to the deepest part of who we are and help, wash the dust off of the mirror of the heart and allow the internal light to shine, allow the person to be who they be. This mushroom is incredibly calming and centering and opens up the breath and creates a positive mental atmosphere and modulates immunity and is just magical. So while I would love to just talk about all the mushrooms, and maybe I'll do one of our Friday community classes on mushrooms because that would be fun, reishi occupies a very special space in my heart. On a side note of mushrooms, I also have a personal connection with Amanita. I love Amanita. Amanita has an ancient history of work in sort of these arts and crafts. This particular genus of mushroom grows everywhere in the world. You can find them everywhere, and they are so wrapped up in many aspects of Indo-European lore, visionary, spirit journey lore, that I felt just enamored by this mushroom and have had the pleasure to sit with them many, many times. And so, I should say, I guess for safety, that Amanita has to be handled delicately. I'm not telling you to take this mushroom. It's a mushroom that can make you very sick and cause you a lot of problems if not handled and prepared and taken properly. But I can say historically, people do take Amanita in very controlled doses in a proper preparation. Amanita has to be prepared properly to not make you sick. You cannot just pluck one and eat it. No. So Amanita, what a babe. So thanks, folks, for all the questions. I think 4 is good. And we put out a question call every month on Patreon on the 20th of the month, and then I record the video on the last day of the month and post it the same day. So you've got a few days to get your questions submitted. Pretty much anything goes. And hopefully you got some inspiration, some ideas. If you have follow-up questions, send me a message and I'll get back to you. And otherwise, I hope your October was lovely and the coming November brings you to a good fire. I'll see you soon.